Hi, I'm Bakhtar Sanov and you are watching A News. Let's see the top stories. The U.S. President Donald Trump exempts smartphones and computers from new tariffs. Iranian and United States delegations hold talks in Oman to discuss Tehran's nuclear program. Azerbaijan, Armenia and Georgia foreign ministers meet for peace at Antalya Diplomacy Forum. Director General of the World Trade Organization warned the U.S.-China trade tensions could cut the trade of goods between the two economies by as much as 80%. She said that dividing the global economy into two blocks could result in a long-term drop of around 7% in global real GDP. China's WTO delegation said today it had filed an additional complaint over the new U.S. tariffs.
The escalating trade tensions between the United States and China pose a significant risk of a sharp contraction in their bilateral trade. Our preliminary projections suggest that merchandise trade between these two economies could decrease by as much as 80%. Further escalation becomes tantamount to a shutting off of bilateral trade between the two countries, a decoupling. The negative macroeconomic effects will not be confined to US and China alone, but will extend to other countries, especially the least developed nations. Of particular concern is the potential fragmentation of global trade along geopolitical lines. A division of the global economy into two blocks could lead to a long-term reduction in global real GDP by nearly 7%.
The Trump administration has exempted smartphones and key tech devices from tariffs, easing concerns from U.S. tech companies about rising prices.
The Trump administration has lifted tariffs on smartphones, computers and other tech goods. This includes a 125% tariff on Chinese imports. The exemption also covers electronic devices like semiconductors, solar cells and memory cards. The decision follows fears from US tech companies about skyrocketing gadget prices. Many devices, including iPhones, are made in China. Apple alone accounted for more than half of US smartphone sales last year. Reports show that about 80% of iPhones for the US market are made in China. Only 20% are produced in India. Apple and other smartphone makers such as Samsung, Xiaomi and Huawei have been diversifying supply chains, turning to India and Vietnam as production hubs.
American consumer confidence has taken a significant hit this April, plunging to levels not seen in decades. According to new data from the University of Michigan, inflation fears and intensifying trade tensions are fueling a sharp rise in pessimism, raising concerns about the broader health of the U.S. economy. Consumer sentiment in the United States fell sharply in April, with the University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index dropping to 50.8, down from 57 in March. That's far below economists' expectations, who had forecast a more modest decline to 54.5. The survey found that the downturn in confidence was widespread, cutting across all demographics including age, income, education levels, regions, and political affiliations. The latest data was gathered through interviews conducted between March 25th and April 8th. Meanwhile, inflation expectations among consumers have surged. The 12-month inflation outlook rose to 6.7% in April, the highest level since 1981. That's a sharp jump from 5% the previous month. Over a 5-year horizon, inflation is now expected to average 4.4% from 4.1% in March. This economic anxiety is unfolding against the backdrop of escalating trade tensions. On Wednesday, President Donald Trump intensified the trade war with China, raising tariffs on Chinese goods to 125%. In a swift response, Beijing implemented an identical 125% tariff on American exports. Although the administration has suspended some targeted tariffs for a 90-day window, a broad 10% duty on most imports remains in effect. Additionally, a 25% tariff still applies to motor vehicles, steel and aluminum. These aggressive trade measures have sparked widespread concern that the U.S. economy may be heading into a period of high inflation and sluggish growth, or potentially a recession. U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Russian President Vladimir Putin met in St. Petersburg on Friday to discuss potential steps toward a peace deal in Ukraine amidst growing tensions over ceasefire terms.
Donald Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in St. Petersburg for the third time as Washington pushes for a ceasefire in the war in Ukraine. The Kremlin confirmed that the meeting lasted more than 4 hours and focused on aspects of a Ukrainian settlement amid stalled US-Russia discussions on a ceasefire. Despite ongoing peace efforts, the talks come at a time when diplomatic negotiations have hit a roadblock. Disagreements over the terms of a ceasefire have grown, with Trump urging Russia to get moving on a resolution. Putin has expressed a willingness to agree to a full ceasefire, but insists that critical issues such as Ukraine's NATO ambitions and territorial disputes must be addressed first. The meeting has also sparked speculation about the possibility of an in-person meeting between Putin and Trump, though Russian spokesperson Dmitry Peskov downplayed expectations, stressing that no immediate breakthroughs were anticipated from the talks.
Now joining us is Anne Evans, a geopolitical analyst from Lisbon. Anne, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
There are those who would say that US-Russia normalization is unlikely to achieve its intended objective. Do you belong to the cast of those who are very skeptical about this proposition?
Well, I would say that US is navigating with its national interest in mind. And therefore, as we know, since early 2024, so already during Biden's mandate, the US downgraded its perception of Russian threatening activity vis-à-vis NATO and Russia and the US. So unlike Europe, which sees Russia as a European threat, the United States has decreased the level of that threat already more than a year ago. And so it makes sense that according to this national security perspective, which sees China and Iran as the major priorities, then the US is dealing with Russia and Iran accordingly. So the US wants to devote its resources to the Indo-Pacific in military and defense terms, and it is negotiating with Russia in the attempt to somehow diverge Russia from its links to China, and it is at the same time negotiating with Iran because of the great preoccupation of Iran's destabilization of the Middle East and its nuclear capacity. So all that we are seeing goes in line with the defined national security strategies for the last year. Even though, as we know, domestically, we have at least two different positions, namely between Witkoff and Kellogg, with regard to how the US should behave towards Russia. So Kellogg is much more in support of Ukraine, for example, in that conflict, whereas Witkoff is much more in support of territorial concessions domestically.
And neither
but
allies.
Don't forget,
Neither allies have recently placed
ahead.
quite a considerable amount to the defense of Ukraine, but United States remains very, very much outside the scope of these commitments. What are your thoughts?
Like this? Okay.
Well, my thoughts are, again, that there is a large divergence between what the European perception is and what the American perception is with regard to Ukraine. And so the European countries need to forge a military collective posture with a large-scale investment, which is not provided by the US at this point, because this is not, again, a priority in the American national interest. So if we consider the domestic preferences by the electorate, we see that along both party lines, the electorate does not regard Ukraine as a major priority. And people within the Congress, same way. I mean, the Democrats support more of Ukraine than the Republicans, but in both cases, it is a minority support. And so the administration needs to mind about its electoral domestic constituency. And so we now are at a stage where one needs to articulate what Europe's role will be in terms of defense, how we will grow the European defense industry, and how much of the support to Ukraine will actually feed back into the US defense industry, which looks somewhat unlikely at this point. So I think the US wants to dedicate the stimulus to its defense industry somewhere else rather than in Ukraine. And so we have these domestic factors and the geopolitical change towards the Indo-Pacific, which is influencing the choices of investment in defense.
And thank you very much for your insights on this topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Argentina's President Javier Milei says the country is stronger than ever against economic shocks after sealing a major deal with the IMF. The new agreement comes with big changes to Argentina's monetary policy and currency controls.
President Milei says Argentina is entering a new economic chapter, one that aims to stabilize the country and protect it from global market turbulence.
Never has Argentina been better equipped in its economic foundations to resist tensions from the global economy.
The $20 billion agreement with the IMF and other institutions will help rebuild Argentina's reserves and push forward deep economic reforms. About $12 billion will be disbursed immediately, boosting central bank reserves to an estimated $50 billion by May. Under this plan, the central bank will remove the fixed currency peg and allow the peso to float within a band of 1,000 to 1,400 pesos per US dollar. The government is also removing strict currency controls in place since 2019, making it easier for businesses to repatriate profits and attract investment.
It will also allow us, starting from Monday, to end the foreign exchange controls, those controls that have caused so much damage since they were imposed in 2019 and have greatly limited the normal functioning of the economy. Ending the foreign exchange controls within this macroeconomic context of fiscal order and monetary order will inevitably lead to the inflow of investments.
Milei also promised that if global conditions worsen, the government will tighten spending further, keeping the economy on track. He believes this program will not only stop inflation from rising, but make it fall.
In the midterm, considering the program, inflation has no other fate than to collapse, as pesos will never be issued without backing.
While supporters say the reforms bring hope, some Argentinians are still cautious, concerned about rising debt and the social cost of more austerity.
A painful night of remembrance in the Dominican Republic. Families and friends gathered outside a collapsed jet-set nightclub where 221 lives were lost.
Mourners lit candles and laid flowers outside what once was the jet-set nightclub, honouring the memory of 221 people killed in a roof collapse during a packed concert on April 8th. The Dominican government released a preliminary report but didn't confirm the cause of the collapse. Rescue operations have ended, with 189 people pulled from the rubble. 17 remain hospitalized.
Generally speaking, as a Dominican, it's a deep pain. I used to come to this place and I was here some weeks ago. I knew some people who unfortunately died. They were among the last to be recovered. among them a pregnant woman who went with me to school.
Many say the grief feels unreal. One mourner came to light candles for a godfather's nephew, and the many others whose lives were cut short.
Today I came for my godfather's nephew, who unfortunately passed away, and for the 221 victims that are not with us today, and those who are in hospitals and their families. All this has been unreal, and it stirs a lot.
As the night sky flickered with candlelight, the community stood together in silence, waiting for answers, while holding on to memories.
Iran and the United States held high-level talks in Oman as Washington tries to slow Tehran's nuclear program. Oman's foreign minister stated that the talks took place in a, quote, friendly atmosphere. The Iranian side also confirmed that both countries have agreed to reconvene next week to continue discussions. Our correspondent Turaj Shiralilo from Tehran has more.
Iran and U.S. agreed to continue high-level talks next week. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and U.S. Special Envoy for Middle East Steve Witkoff held indirect talks in Muscat, Oman on Saturday, and their talks were mediated by Omani Foreign Minister who took their messages sitting in different rooms. After the meeting, Iranian Foreign Ministry issued a statement and said that the talks were held in a constructive atmosphere and based on mutual respect. The basic topic of the negotiations are Iran's nuclear program and how those sanctions on Iran could be removed. Mr. Araghchi held a short encounter with U.S. negotiator and said that this encounter was a usual one, a diplomatic greeting and nothing more. So it remains to be seen how, when the diplomats are back to their homes and back again to Muscat next week, most probably next Saturday. Turaj Shiralilo reporting for A News TV, Tehran.
At the Antalya Diplomacy Forum, foreign ministers from Azerbaijan, Armenia and Georgia came together to explore ways to promote peace and cooperation in the South Caucasus. The discussions focused on strengthening regional ties, fostering dialogue and addressing the challenges of building long-term stability in the region.
In a pivotal moment for regional diplomacy, the foreign ministers of Azerbaijan, Armenia and Georgia came together at the Antalya Diplomatic Forum to discuss the path towards sustainable peace and cooperation in the South Caucasus. The high-level panel on challenges and opportunities for regional cooperation in the South Caucasus focused on building resilience, promoting cross-border collaboration and unlocking the region's full potential. Azerbaijani Foreign Minister Ceyhun Bayramov stressed that Azerbaijan has consistently taken the initiative when it comes to restoring regional connectivity.
It was a proposal of Azerbaijan to be included in the trilateral declaration of November 2020. There is a general statement about opening of communication between two countries, and there's a very specific reference about the unimpeded access from the western borders of Azerbaijan with its Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic.
Bayramov highlighted Azerbaijan's historical railway connections, noting that during the Soviet era, these routes were part of a unified Azerbaijani rail system. The panel also touched on the ongoing peace talks between Azerbaijan and Armenia, with both sides acknowledging the significant progress made so far. Minister Mirzoyan acknowledged the complexities of the talks, but reiterated Armenia's commitment to achieving peace. He stressed that despite ongoing constitutional and legal disagreements, dialogue remains crucial for finding balanced solutions.
We have expressed several times our readiness to initiate the process of dissolution of mixed structures. These structures can be dissolved when there is no conflict. So this is an interesting question. Do we have a conflict now or not? On the ground, no, we don't have a de facto conflict. On the papers, we don't have an agreement on establishment of peace and interstate relations signed and ratified.
Taking on the role of a neutral facilitator, Georgian Foreign Minister Maka Botchorishvili underscored Georgia's strategic interest in a peaceful South Caucasus.
Georgia is the place where both Armenia and Azerbaijan can rely on and can feel that we will provide all possible means to facilitate dialogue in our region, to facilitate cooperation in our region.
The panel at the Antalya Diplomatic Forum highlighted the opportunities for better cooperation in the South Caucasus. All three countries expressed a willingness to engage in dialogue, with Georgia offering to facilitate discussions.
Joining us now is Vakhtang Maisaya, Head of Geopolitical Research at Georgian Strategic Analysis Center. Mr. Maisaya, welcome to the program.
To be at your disposal.
Mr. Maisaya, could you share your insights on the latest tripartite panel discussion, particularly regarding the potential benefits for Georgia from enhanced connectivity between Azerbaijan and Armenia?
Well, these three parties also just had recollected to the historic memory of the regional cooperation, which these three countries also had not only just about in 90s or 00 last century and this century, but also about beginning of the 20th century, 1918, 1921, when the all three nations were independent, free, and declared first their statehood. By that time, namely Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Democratic Republic, they also joined to also just create joint just regional security provisions, and of course, they also just have implications to join just League of Nations, which was by that time was like just a main international fora for such fostering cooperation. Now, I guess the history also get just about on its own ground. It's been retreated on its own ground, and I guess this trilateral peaceful coexistence and resilience in the regional level, I guess it will be a good idea and good models. And thank you for Turkey that this Turkish leadership just gathered all three nations just about political leaders, not political leaders, but about Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in order just to at least to launch a dialogue among themselves. It's a great breakthrough to the stability of the regional security.
Mr. Maisaya, earlier it was mentioned that Georgia could serve as a platform for confidence-building measures to facilitate dialogue between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Do you consider this proposal feasible?
Yes, for sure, very feasible, because Georgia is like a main best fora to continue the dialogue between the Armenia and Azerbaijan, even to get signed this peaceful agreement, because it will be more fostering this trilateral or so-called United Caucasus peaceful coexistence, so-called geopolitical fora, which we can mention about Caucasus geostrata, geostrata about peaceful land, which should be just becomes a good fora and good example for another regions like the Middle East, Persian Gulf, or maybe Central Asia, in order to fostering new to tackling all common problems, and of course to make a deal in order just to fostering joint geo-economic project. Like we also can see that Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey, together with Kazakhstan, they created so-called geo-economic alliance to fostering about geo-economic project connecting west to the east, and I guess Armenia could join this geo-economic alliance. It will be a good posture for promoting peace, prosperity at the region.
Mr. Maisaya, thank you very much for talking to A News. We appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
The bonds of strategic partnership between Turkey and Azerbaijan continue to grow stronger. In the framework of the Antalya Diplomacy Forum, top defense officials from both nations came together to reaffirm their commitment to deepening military cooperation. A high-level meeting was held between the Minister of Defense of Azerbaijan, Zakir Asanov, and the Minister of National Defense of Turkey, Yaşar Güler. The meeting focused on discussing the current state of military cooperation between the two brotherly countries, as well as the prospects for its development. Additionally, there was an exchange of views on regional security issues. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has pledged continued support for Syria's stabilization efforts. His remarks came during a meeting with Syrian counterpart Ahmed al-Shara at the Antalya Diplomacy Forum on Friday. The encounter marks a rare high-level engagement between the two countries, signaling a potential shift in regional dynamics. According to a statement from Turkey's Communications Directorate, President Erdogan assured al-Shara that Ankara will actively pursue diplomatic efforts to lift international sanctions imposed on Syria. Erdogan welcomed the fact that destabilizing forces have not been able to reignite chaos in Syria. He expressed confidence that the coming years would bring stability, prosperity, and peace to the war-torn nation. He also emphasized the importance of boosting commercial and economic ties between Turkey and Syria. Erdogan indicated that steps to enhance cooperation in other areas could also be taken, suggesting a broader normalization of relations may be on the horizon. In its latest economic review, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has urged Turkey to stay the course on tight monetary and fiscal policies while calling for comprehensive structural reforms. The OECD says these steps are vital for ensuring long-term economic stability, productivity, and sustainable growth. The OECD's newly published economic survey of Turkey highlights the country's impressive economic growth over the past decade, ranking among the fastest growing in the OECD with an average annual expansion of 4.9%. But looking ahead, the report emphasizes the need for Turkey to adopt credible and prudent macroeconomic policies. Tight monetary policy and strong fiscal discipline are seen as key tools for maintaining momentum and driving inflation down towards the official 5% target. Speaking at the report's presentation in Istanbul, OECD's Secretary-General Matthias Cormann stressed the importance of long-term reforms. He said that maintaining tight monetary policy and fiscal discipline will be key to ensure sustainable economic convergence with other OECD countries and the continued decline in inflation towards the 5% target. Cormann added that structural reforms aimed at improving public spending efficiency and optimizing tax revenues will be essential to reinforce fiscal discipline. The OECD also praised Turkey's recent shift towards economic policy normalization following the May 2023 elections. The government has taken a series of steps to stabilize the macroeconomic environment, moves that have boosted financial market stability, increased investor confidence, and reduced economic uncertainty. Looking ahead, the OECD forecast a GDP growth of 3.1% in 2025 and 3.9% in 2026. The message from the OECD is clear: stay the course, deepen reforms, and Turkey can secure a path toward more stable and sustainable economic growth. Armenia and Iran have conducted a two-day joint military exercise near the shared border. While the drills are officially framed as efforts to boost regional security and counter terrorism, the geopolitical undercurrents paint a more complex picture.
Armenia and Iran held a two-day joint military exercise near their shared border. The drills included heavy weapon use, sniper coordination, demolition practice, and joint support fire operations. Iran's state-run Mehr news agency said the exercises were meant to show strength and Tehran's commitment to regional stability and national security. The timing is sensitive. Iran faces global pressure over its nuclear program and regional behavior, while Armenia has been building closer ties with the European Union and promoting democratic values. Still, Armenia's decision to hold military drills with Iran, a country often criticized by Western nations, raises questions about its foreign policy. Critics say Armenia is sending mixed messages, seeking stronger ties with the West while cooperating militarily with Iran. This approach could hurt Armenia's credibility and strain its growing relationships with Europe and the United States.
An armed drug smuggling attempt from Iran into Azerbaijan has been foiled by the country's border guards. One suspect was neutralized, another detained, and a large quantity of narcotics seized. Here are the details.
Azerbaijan's State Border Service successfully prevented an organized group from illegally crossing the border from Iran on April 8th, as part of ongoing efforts to combat drug trafficking and protect the state border. 3 unidentified individuals were spotted by a patrol unit of the Goytepe border detachment attempting to cross into Azerbaijan. The border area was sealed off, and warning shots were fired after the suspects ignored orders to stop. The trespassers responded with armed resistance, opening fire on the guards. In accordance with Azerbaijani law, border guards returned fire, killing one suspect and detaining another. The third managed to flee back into Iranian territory under the cover of darkness. A search of the area uncovered a Winchester rifle, a night vision device, bullet casings, and 32.4 kilograms of marijuana. The Iranian side has been informed, and investigations are ongoing.
Kazakhstan is making major strides in artificial intelligence with a strong focus on attracting top talent. As part of this effort, the country aims to bring in up to 10,000 AI specialists each year through the launch of a new international AI center. Our correspondent in Almaty, Fariza Kalimurzina, has more.
Kazakhstan is in talks with tech heavyweights including Telegram, InDrive and Google to establish offices at LMI, one of the country's most ambitious AI projects. The facility will feature an educational hub for school children and a startup campus with the goal of boosting AI experts to $5 billion by 2029. To achieve this objective, Kazakhstan has launched a nationwide program to train 1 million people in AI skills. Additionally, the country plans to implement AI certification for government employees while expanding AI expertise in the corporate sector. Officials say LMI, set to open in the fall of this year, will serve as a catalyst for AI development in Central Asia, launching 100 AI startups and supporting 1 scientific research project. Through these efforts, Kazakhstan hopes to join the global partnership on artificial intelligence. AI is also making an impact beyond the tech sector, transforming industries such as agriculture, transportation, and healthcare. For example, the AgriTech Hub startup is using AI and satellite data to monitor farmland and predict crop yields. In the mining sector, Kazakhstan is utilizing AI to analyze decades-old Soviet geological records. Vice Minister of Industry and Construction Janat Dubirova notes that AI is being used to process data from the 1950s to the 1980s, recognizing up to 90% of the information even from poor quality records. So far, over 56,000 geological records have been digitized. From Almaty, Kazakhstan, Fariza Kalimurzina.
On the 12th of April, International Human Space Flight Day, humanity not only honors the pioneering flight of Yuri Gagarin, but also reflects on the remarkable progress made in space exploration. Recognized by the United Nations, this day highlights the importance of global cooperation in space. Azerbaijan has been an active participant in this journey, with Azercosmos at the forefront, driving the nation's advancements in space technology.
International Human Spaceflight Day is celebrated every year on April 12th. It marks the day in 1961 when Yuri Gagarin became the first human to travel into space.
Апреля 1951 года в Советском Союзе выведен на орбиту вокруг Земли.
Orbiting the Earth for 1 hour and 48 minutes. His flight was a major step in space exploration and opened a new chapter in human history. The United Nations chose this date to honor the role of space science in making the world safer and more connected.
In 1973, it brought all of them to Baku for the International Astronautical Congress to discuss the modern, for that time, problems of the space. And from this time, Azerbaijan also started actively participating in the global space science and space initiatives. In 1987, first Azerbaijani-born astronaut flew into space, Musa Manarov. And the modern history of Azerbaijan in space starts in 2008.
3, 2, unité, top, allumage Vulcain. Allumage EAP.
Azerbaijan's space journey began with the launch of Azaspace 1, Azerbaijan's first telecommunications satellite, in 2013. This was followed by the launch of Azasky, an Earth observation satellite, in 2014, and Azaspace 2, the country's second telecommunications satellite, in 2018. Through these efforts, Azakosmos has significantly enhanced Azerbaijan's technological independence and its ability to provide critical communication services to regions across Europe, the Middle East, Central Asia, and Africa.
It's important to emphasize the role of talent and the role of R&D in the sector. We are moving from the, let's say, downstream market to the upstream market in the upcoming years. And in this regard, I would like to emphasize the role of Spacecraft Development and Production Center that is being under construction now in Azerbaijan.
The agency's success has played an important role in the nation's economic and social development, helping position Azerbaijan as a growing leader in space technology.
With two geostationary satellites, we have been providing teleport services. Also, we're providing satellite services for both TV, radio, and data communications. Also, with different partnerships, we are providing many satellite data services, both in Africa and also in our region.
State-of-the-art technologies are being employed in Azakosmos Main Ground Satellite Control Center, where coordination with other countries and satellites is carried out.
Ground control unit controls the antennas on the ground and makes sure that everything is fine with the antennas and the other technological parts that needs to work together with the antennas to ensure that there is no let's say, break in the communication, so we'll be able to communicate the satellite anytime we need. So that's what the ground team do. We also have controllers here, which after we plan the maneuvers, they send the maneuver data to the satellite and also monitor the satellite during the execution of the maneuvers and other operations to make sure that everything is fine with the satellite.
In 2023, Azerbaijan had the distinct honor of hosting the 74th International Astronautical Congress in Baku. The Congress brought together over 5,300 participants from 136 countries and served as an important platform for exchanging ideas and innovations in space exploration. The event focused on the theme Global Challenges and Opportunities. Give space a chance, reaffirming Azerbaijan's commitment to global collaboration in space. At the same time, Azakosmos hosted the Space Challenges in the Fight Against Climate Change Space Leaders Summit during the COP29 event. The summit led to the signing of the Pledge on Expanding Space-Based Climate Initiatives by 20 global space agencies. This pledge represents a significant step towards deepening international cooperation to tackle climate change, underscoring the role of space-based solutions in mitigating its negative effects. As part of its long-term commitment to the space sector, Azerbaijan has also established the Space Academy under Azakosmos. This academy is designed to be a hub for training and nurturing the next generation of space professionals. By offering both physical and digital learning opportunities, the academy aims to equip students with the knowledge and skills needed to contribute to the rapidly evolving space industry.
This year, Azerbaijani school children representing 41 schools will be deploying their first PocketSat, micro satellite, to the near Earth orbit with the rockets of the SpaceX company. Almost 750 school children are participating in this competition, as well as we are implementing International Space Olympics together with our Israeli partners from Israel Space Agency. Almost 700 school children representing 40 schools are actively participating in this Olympics.
In collaboration with leading universities and global space institutions, the Academy will provide students the chance to engage with cutting-edge technologies and participate in international projects, ensuring that Azerbaijan continues to strengthen its position as a global leader in space exploration.
Azercosmos established internship programs and mentorship programs where they also invited me as a mentor here, where we together trying to help the new students that are going to focus and go to the International Astronomical Congress 2025, which will be held in Australia, Sydney. So right now my main goal is going and participating in Sydney Congress, where I will gain more experiences and will have a chance to come back to Azerbaijan and share my experiences with new students.
The official media partner of Space Conference of Organization of Turkic Stated and Space Technology Conference will be held in Baku from 23rd to 25th April.
That's all we have for now. Thank you for tuning in and keep watching A News.